Hi guys, I'm Matthew, your VB tutor. Welcome back to the final episode in this short series where I'm going to build out this mini booking application so we can start actually utilizing the database class that we've built. So I've gone ahead and just built out this very basic kind of interface to help us kind of understand what we're working with. Here we've got a multi-page tool. So these buttons are just a simple page tool that allows me to switch between different, essentially like tabs, between each different component. So in each tab we've got a list box. This list box is split up with multiple columns, and then we've got a new booking button to allow us to sort of clear these fields, and we've got a save booking. And then we've just got a item down the bottom here, which is just going to have our booking ID when we load it in. This is just going to help us identify what we're working on if we're constantly working on individual bookings. We can also just hide this so the user doesn't actually have to see this value. Completely up to you with how you want to operate your system. Each of the components, each of the tables that we've represented in our database are going to be represented here as their own tab, and allow us to sort of pull up the values and adjust them into them, save them, create new ones, so on and so forth. So to start with, we're just going to double click on our first button. So we're just going to make that we'll do a new booking. So in here, essentially what we want to do is just loop through the controls in the selected tab. So we've got dim control as a control object. Then we loop with each control for each in pages. Pages is what I've just called the multi-page item in the form. Then we go the selected item, and then we do the controls in that selected item. So essentially this is just going to allow us to loop through each of these different controls in this form, but it'll only include everything in this bookings form. It won't include anything in vehicles or customers. It'll only be the one that is currently selected. Now in this we can go, if the type name of the control is a text box, then we can clear the value of that text box. And then we might just want to focus on that first, on the first item here. So this is going to be the customer ID for the bookings tab. So I've just called that B for bookings, then customer ID, set, focus. Now I'll quickly just deviate here. This naming convention is very intentional. I've named these intentionally with a B, C, or V for bookings, customers, or vehicles for each of these variables. You can see here B, 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 so on and so forth. And then for vehicles, it's going to be V's. For customers, it's going to be C's. And subsequent, here the first name, this is exactly what we've called things here in our database, in the table. This is going to allow us to just really easily sort of make that connection between field and data. So in our code here, we're going to do the same thing for new customer, and we'll do the same thing for vehicles. So because the selected item is always going to be the one that they're currently on when they click the button, this code can simply be copied between the three of those. The set focus is going to be different for each. So for the vehicles, it's going to be the make. So new vehicle, you go V, make, set focus. and then customer, that's going to be the first name. So me, the first name, set focus, get rid of me. So the next thing we want to do is we need to set up our initialize method for our form. So with it in this list here, we can just come down all the way to user form. And then from this list, we just select initialize. Now, our initialize method, we're going to need to do a few things. First, we want to make sure that we're always starting on a certain page. So from our pages object, and just set the value to 0. So it's just going to set us to basically click on that first page, which is going to be our bookings page. Then the way I like to build these is we set a public object for our database object. So there's going to be a public. We can even have it private because we're only working on it within this form. So our database object as a class database, because this is what we've called our class module. In the initialize method, we need to set that to a new instance of that class, and then we need to load all of our bookings, vehicles, customers. We're going to build those routines out in just a moment. So load bookings, load vehicles, and load customers. Now, what are these routines going to look like? So let's build those out. So we're going to start with bookings. We don't need to pass anything to that, so it's just a standard subroutine. We're going to have a dictionary object. So our dictionary is going to be our information coming back from our database. So if you remember when we built our database and we have our fetch data routine, this is coming back as a dictionary. So we want to make sure that we're dealing with the data as a dictionary. I mentioned before, you can do all of this with collections or with arrays, but I find dictionaries much easier to work with. So we're going to set that dictionary object to our database object, fetch data, and then we're going to select all. So that star just means all from bookings. That's it. That's all we need. That's all of our SQL query that we actually need to work with. So that just pulls everything from this bookings table into this data object. Then we need to loop through each of the items in that object. So now we're just going to do with, because we're going to be dealing with this list item in our form. Because essentially what this load bookings routine is going to be doing is populating this table here with all of our bookings from our database. So we're going to be working with this item a lot, and so we'll just use a with wrap here, and then we're going to clear that first because we don't want to sort of add data when it's maybe already there, if we're like doing the load bookings over and over. And then we have we need to loop through each item in data.items. Then we're going to add an item to our list, and then we're working with the list count -1 and our first column. So working with columns here. So a booking ID. So it's going to be the booking ID that we're getting from the database. And then we're just going to copy that down we're going to be doing column 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we've got the different columns or different fields from our bookings table. So we've got customer ID, vehicle ID, start date, end date. So we do customer ID, vehicle ID, start date, and end date. Just the next item. So that there is going to populate our bookings table. If we just comment that out. So now if we run this form, okay, so we see that our connection isn't actually open yet. So we actually still have to connect to our database. So we open our connection. Now in this module here, I've got the database path and password. So I can just call them from this form. So database path, database password. So that's going to open our connection. Okay, now when we run it, it will automatically populate all of that information from our database. Now, we won't get into too complex of SQL queries, but you can actually do an SQL query which will change these IDs here into actual names for the customers and for the vehicle IDs so that it actually means something. At the moment, an ID number 99, I'd have to go and have a look at the customer and find that information in there. But for now, just for a basic system, this will tell us enough. Okay, so we also have to build out our load customers and vehicles. I'm just going to copy this down. Going to have load vehicles and load customers. We're going to be selecting all from vehicles, and customers. Going to be dealing with our list customers object and our list vehicles object. And then obviously these values are all going to be different. So we've got our make, model, year, license plate. And then for this one, I think we have a couple of extra fields. So we'll just make sure that they're in there. We've got a customer ID, first name, last name, email, phone, license number, and date of birth. Okay. Now if we run this, because we're loading all three, we should be able to go into our vehicles. We see all of our vehicles there. It's not populated the IDs. That makes me think I might have just misspelt. Yeah, value ID. There you go. There you go. So it's now populating all that information. Okay, but say we want to load this information over here into our booking sheet. So let's see how we do that. Let's say if we double click on an item, so if we double click on an item in the bookings list, then we're going to load that information. So let's go with list bookings. We can just do me booking ID, customer ID, vehicle ID, start date, and end date. Do the value of each of those fields equals our list index. List index is just the selected row that we've selected, and then column 0. So we'll just do the same for each of these. Do 1, 2, 3, 4. And here we should be able to double click on any of these and they will just load into our list of values here. So we'll just do the same thing for vehicles and customers. Again, we want to make sure it's the double click method. And we just do the same sort of thing as we've done here. So we should now, in our customer list, we'll be able to load up any customer. In our vehicles list, we load up any vehicle. Now, what if we want to add in a new vehicle or a new customer, or save some changes to one of our customers or our vehicles or our bookings? So let's go into that. So we'll start with bookings. So if we just double click on the Save Booking button, then we can go in and set the code up for that. So this is going to be us upserting data to our database. So we're going to first grab the information from in these values and build a dictionary to then pass to our class. So as new dictionary, and then we need to loop through each control. So the same sort of thing as what we've done here. We can just loop through each control, next control, and then we say if the type name of the control is a text box, because the only things we've got there as text boxes are the things that we want to save our values for, then we're going to add to the book data mid control name 2. Essentially, all this is doing is it's grabbing the name of the control. So in this example, that would be customer's first name, starting at the second letter, so starting at letter 2, and then grabbing the rest of the name. So this is very intentionally named to be the same as the field name in our database. Just makes that linking a little bit easier. So we're adding that field name and then we're setting the value of that field. So we'll do that. If we don't have a booking ID, if an ID hasn't been loaded, then it's assumed that we're dealing with a new booking. In that case, we don't actually need to have the booking ID field in the database. Oh, sorry, in the dictionary. So we'll just remove that. So if the booking ID is nothing, then we can just book data.remove the booking ID. Now, finally, all we need to do is to upsert or update/insert that data to our table. So we've got bookings table. We've got the booking ID is the ID field name, and then our book data, which is our dictionary object, which we've just built. So we're just passing those to our upsert data function. And then we can say that our booking has been saved. And we want to just load the bookings list again, just to make sure that the list is updated with all the current data. And finally, we can just call this variable here. That just means that we can clear the data ready for us to click on a new bit of information or create another booking as we need to. So let's just do the same thing here for our vehicles and customers quickly. Okay, now let's have a look and see how that works. So if we run that, we can jump into the customers and say Greg Morris has called us up and he's told us that his name's actually just Greg, not Gregory. So we'll save that. So save that information there. We can see that Greg has changed here, but more importantly, if we jump into our database, we can see that his name is actually already updated to Greg in the database. Let's try another one. We'll say Lisa Reynolds, change the surname to Lisa Smith. Now if we come in here to our customers, probably just needs a second to update. There we go. Lisa Smith is now in the database. Now what if we want to create a new customer? So I'm going to put myself in here, use Snow. ABC 123. Date of birth, I'm very, very old. And we'll just save that in there. Now if we jump into our customers database, jump down the very end, we can see I'm already in there as Matthew Snow. Same with our bookings and our vehicles, same sort of thing. You can see how this now we can interact with our database in a meaningful way. We can also do many other things, and the queries can become more complex, but this class just opens all these doors for you and allows you to interact with the database in a really easy, meaningful manner. You know, we've got a system here that's built over 3 different sections. Each section has 5 or 6 controls, maybe a bit more for the customers menu, and all we're looking at is, you know, a few sort of measly lines of code, and all of this interacts perfectly with a database. So you can sort of see the power of how this can build out your applications and how you can improve your workflow. It also means that all of your data is saved, and if we send this Excel file to another user and you have this database in a shared location, even if it's just on Dropbox, they can connect to that same database and you can both work off the same data. Something that's quite difficult to do typically in Excel. So it just opens a lot of doors for you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks very much for watching. See you later.